What up? You're watching another episode of Dallas Ebonics, where we talk black. And so, for those who ain't seen, Farrakhan did an address to the world the other day, maybe about a week ago, titled the Swan song. And he addressed a lot of stuff. So basically I'm just finna break down what he said, give you a quick summary of what he said. Everybody don't have 3-4 hours to sit and listen to that man talk. I hardly even got 3-4 hours to sit and listen to him talk. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times people kind of get lost in a lot of the Islamic and Muslim, religious talk. Like, a lot of people are not really into that. So basically, I'm just finna break it down so you get the gist of what he said, and we can just keep it pushing. The beginning was interesting. They was basically giving a chance for everybody to, give an offering or whatever, and they was naming off everybody that had donated. I heard Cash Money. I heard, trying to think off the top of my head, I heard London on the Track. I heard Dougie Fresh. I heard 2 Chainz. I seen he acknowledged Rizza Islam. I seen he acknowledged Brother Ben from out here in Dallas. So in the beginning, he was kind of just getting us ready, kind of warming up the crowd or whatever. He talked about a long history of degradation as a people and how the Most High raised up Elijah Muhammad from a dead state, and from a dead people, and you see what the Nation of Islam has become today. So it's a beautiful thing. He talked about Malcolm X. He talked about how our ancestors longed for a generation that wouldn't bend, fold, or break, for nobody, especially for them people, And I found that kind of interesting because, I had heard that our ancestors put us to sleep on purpose, to preserve us, so we wouldn't have to, keep fighting and losing. And he talked about us praising our leaders, how when we have a leader, we love them and we follow them and we do whatever they say. But then when they're gone, the whole movement dies and everything stops. The Nation of Islam is one organization I can say, irregardless to who dies or what happens, they have always managed to continue to thrive and continue to do what they're supposed to do. I can't say that about many other organizations. And he goes on to talk about people that want to replace these leaders but aren't prepared to deal with the consequences that may come with that. And this ain't no shade or nothing like that, but the first thing come to my mind is Nick Cannon. You know what I'm saying? Nick Cannon was just way too invested in white America for us to take him seriously. It's not that he wasn't saying the right shit. He was definitely saying the right shit. He was giving us real good game, and he himself wasn't giving it to us. He was bringing other people onto his platform that were more knowledgeable than him. I really salute him for that. But when it came down to it and you got the backlash, he wasn't prepared to deal with that. He was just too invested in white America to stand firm on that, like, maybe we would have wanted him to. But going forward, that's something that we had to be prepared for. If you're going to talk about things like that and you're going to be on that level, you can't be so invested into the system, because then that compromises you, because now you have to make a choice. So, salute to Nick Cannon for the info. You feel me? I watch a lot of his videos all the time, even now to this day. But we need people that, are going to stand on that. You feel me? If you about that, then you got to be about that, even when they don't like it. And then he goes on to talk about people that say that they love him, but can't be seen with him. You know what I'm saying? He talks about people that say that they love him, but won't say his name in public. Yeah, around certain people on certain platforms, you won't even say his name. Very interesting. First name come to my mind when I think about that is Tamika Mallory, because she had the opportunity to denounce him on The View and she chose not to.
I don't speak for Jewish people, but I think I'm just confused. These remarks are, it goes on, death to Israel over and over again.
We did not make those remarks. You can't.
But you're associating with a man who does publicly.
What I will say to you is that I don't agree with many of Minister Farrakhan's statements.
Specifically about Jewish people.
As I said, I don't agree with many of Minister Farrakhan's statements.
Do you condemn them?
I don't agree with these statements. At the end of the day...
You won't condemn it.
No. To be very clear, it's not my language. It's not the way that I speak. It is not how I organize. And I think it is very clear over the 20 years of my own personal activism, my own personal track record, who I am, and that I should never be judged through the lens of a man. That is actually not what this women's movement is supposed to be about.
I don't want to be judged through the lens of...
And I really saluted her for that, and I really rocked with her for that, especially after she said, you know, we in a state of emergency, and I was really feeling a lot of her passion because I connected with that. He talks about us learning how to turn down money for the greater good of our community. You know, we let a lot of things slide, and we just let our people do whatever they want to do, all for the sake of the bag. You feel me? All in the name of the bag. We just let our people do whatever they want. Everything ain't got to be about money, bro. We know money is worthless anyway. This shit is worthless. It's not backed up by gold. It's just a piece of paper. You feel me? Like it's worthless and it loses value every year. We have to find something more important to us than money. Our people have to be more important to us than money. But one specific person that he mentioned in the address was 50 Cent. And he talked about how 50 Cent is such a brilliant man. And how 50, you know, has done so many great things. And he's beat the odds and surpassed any stereotype you can possibly give him. The man has, you know, exceeded expectations. But yet he's letting these writers and these directors paint him as an animal on their show Power. You know, you're allowing them to paint you as a gun-toting, cop-killing drug dealer. The Nation of Islam is trying to raise up black men out of the cycle of incarceration and death to get us to a new height, to a new way of thinking, to a new mindset. While our celebrities and millionaires are promoting filth and nonsense and ignorance to our people. All for the sake of the bag. You feel me? All in the name of money. At some point, we're going to have to change our mentality, you know, and some people might say, oh, you know, you hating you. That's a deflection. It's not hate, bro. We can't talk about power and uplifting the youth. And these are the images that we portray to our people. Now, I understand we have a legacy of death that has been, you know, invested into our mental. You know, and so some people say, you know, we can put out positive images, but people ain't going to support it. They probably won't. Because death and destruction has been promoted to us for decades. This shit ain't going to be undone overnight. We have to invest positivity and productivity and light into our people. And it's going to take some time before our appetites want shit like that. But we're going to have to, you know, start somewhere, bro. Like, we got to do this shit. You feel me? We can't just keep complaining forever. We're going to have to, at some point, do the shit. You know, so, yeah, putting out images like that of 50, you know, killing his own son and all that other fuck shit. Yeah, people are going to watch that and people are going to want to see that. And that's great. And it makes a whole lot of money and that's great. And you probably put that money in the community. I don't know what that nigga do with his money, you know, whatever. But I'm just saying, at some point, we're going to have to invest light and positivity into our people. Every single video I've ever made on any platform has always been to help. Whether it came out fucked up, whether I sounded mean or whatever, bro, it was always to help and uplift our people. You know, everything I've ever done, as far as, you know, my platform has always been to help and uplift other people. I mean, it may not be so profitable. It may not get me all the views. It may not get me all the likes and whatever. But at the end of the day, I sleep good because I know I put out positive light for our people. I sleep good at night, bro. You feel me? So it's whatever. And then he goes on to talk about how knowledge is useless without character, you know. And I found that interesting because that's something I heard KRS-One talk about in an interview with Nick Cannon. And he talked about how it's something about this colonial education that we're getting. You know, if I can find a clip, I'll put it in here. But he said it's something about this colonial education that we're getting, that the more educated we get, the more cowardly we are.
Hey, here's a sick piece. It's not our children that are affected by this. These are intellectuals that are affected by this.
Facts.
The smarter you get, it seems the dumber you get. The smarter our intellectuals become, the more cowardly they become. This has something to do with this colonial education we're getting, because I know some great black minds. You know, I'm in the university system. I see these minds. I talk. People, great minds. But that paycheck is going to dictate what's going to come out that mind. Or come out your mouth of that mind.
And that paycheck is based off of that other piece of paper that they got to affirm their paycheck.
I got master's degree.
So therefore I get paid more.
I get paid more.
Therefore I'm controlled by your system.
Let me I know the truth, but let me not speak it right now.
Nah, because I can't. I got to feed my family.
Right. Right. Now, feeding your family is way more important than speaking the truth to a people that's going to treat you like they did Dr. King. Mm. If there was a reward to speaking truth, more people would.
Indeed.
Well, there's no
That's
reward.
Not where the bag is. Like you said, the bag is in the fantasy.
See, that's what the bag is.
I guess the same thing can be said about money. The more money that we get from the system, the less likely we are to denounce the system. You know, somebody, I forgot where I seen this, but somebody had mentioned to me that Martin Luther King had a doctorate degree. And Martin Luther King came from a wealthy family, and he was from an affluent family. Martin Luther King didn't have to step away from that shit and uplift black people. He could have just been a sellout and went on about his own life like everybody else, like all the rest of the sellouts. But he chose to sacrifice his affluent status, irregardless of what that may mean. You know what I'm saying? Even to my detriment. That's a powerful thing. You know, and KRS-One was basically saying it's something about the education that we get in this country that prevents us from wanting to do that. And I can see that. You know, I meet a lot of people, bro, with master's degrees and doctorate degrees that don't hardly know shit, bro. Outside of European education, they don't know nothing about their own people. You feel me? Just about our history, they don't be knowing nothing. And I guess knowing black history isn't really profitable, you know what I'm saying? So why would they care? You feel me? But so he goes on to talk about his international relations. And most of us didn't even know that he had any international relations or what he does internationally. You feel me? Like, but yeah, he has, I've seen him in videos with other kings and other places, and you know, doing talks with people in other nations and things like that. So
none of you can deny that what I'm saying is the truth. You know it's the truth. But either you won't write it, or you're too cowardly to speak it because you want some favor here or favor there. So because you can't talk, you are muzzled. I'm not. I'm a free black man. And I didn't come here looking for a handout. And I really don't think you need one. Your problem is that you think you need a handout. Everything you need is right under your foot, but you looking everywhere else for help instead of to yourself and what you can produce for yourself. This is Africa's dilemma. You are parading yourself before the world as international beggars when you gave civilization to the world. Your problem is not America. Your problem is not Israel. Your problem is not Britain. Your problem is your disunity and your dependence on others to do for you what you could do for yourself. So I don't have to come back here anymore to help you. The help is already here. The knowledge is already here. The land is here. The sun is here. The water is here. The minerals are here. You have some of the finest minds in the world, but they're in Europe and they're in America making money while Africa suffers. Why don't we create politically stable environment and call the children of Africa back home to help build Africa? We are your children. And we will come and help. But don't expect us to come with billions of dollars when we don't have it. We're struggling in America. But you got it all right here under your foot. And you should be ashamed not to look to yourself, begging white folk to give you what you could give yourself. What I said today Which one of these countries is going to give you $20 million? America's not going to give you $20 million. You got it right here. But your disunity won't allow you to pool it. It's your fault. And you got to accept that responsibility. That is why my message is atonement, reconciliation, and responsibility. We got to stop blaming everything on somebody else and see what is our responsibility.
Farrakhan doing his thing. I don't really know, what he actually does, but it's probably best that we don't know. Because if the average person knew what he was doing internationally, then them people would probably know too. So it's probably best that we don't know, but being that it's Farrakhan, I trust that he has our best interest at heart. And then going toward the end, he mentioned a man named Henry Kissinger. Matter of fact, here go a video right here.
So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero. And that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra. But let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, health care, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. But there we see an increase of about 1.3. In this year's annual letter, Melinda and I take the toughest questions we get asked and give our answers. One that's come up for a long time is, as we make the world healthier, is the population going to get so big that feeding everybody and maintaining the environment is going to be impossible?
Using synthetic molecules, which by design are cancer, AIDS, all of the bogeymen you could dream up.
Yeah, it's for the purpose of sterilization and population control. There's too many people on the planet we need to get rid of. In the words of Bill Gates, at least 3 billion people need to die. So we'll just start off in Africa. We'll start doing our research there, and we'll eliminate most of the Africans because they're deplorable. They're worthless. They're not part of this world economy. So they have their rights taken away, and they're suppressed, and they're experimented.
He talked about how the government has never, ever, ever, ever pushed health anywhere near as hard as they pushing. Somebody brought something up to me the other day about how all diseases live in mucus, right? And if you eliminate the mucus out of the body, then you eliminate the disease. And I'm assuming that's how Dr. Sebi was able to cure a lot of the things that he did by eliminating the mucus from the body, changing your diet, things like that. America don't even talk about that. Somebody put me on to something the other day. Matter of fact, hold on. Man, I had bought something the other day, bro, by this woman in South Carolina or North Carolina, I forgot. But this woman named Miss K. This is something called elderberry syrup. And it's all natural. It say the ingredients right here on the back. The ingredients right here, it says filtered water, dried elderberries, cinnamon, cloves, ginger, raw, unfiltered honey. And this basically pulls the mucus up out of your body. Bro, I took 2 sips of this. Listen to me, bro. I took 2 sips. Like, I'm talking about 2 sips of this. And I was coughing up mucus within 15 minutes. Real talk, bro. You know what I'm saying? This notion of we need to heal our bodies actually doesn't make any sense at all. There's a lot of natural remedies that you can use to heal your body, such as elderberry syrup. You know what I'm saying? Look it up. I'm pretty sure somebody in your neighborhood or in your city sells it or somewhere close by. Look into it, bro. For real, for real. And not just that, matter of fact. Vitamin C. Gummies. I just got put onto this right here. I heard Rizza Islam saying something about vitamin C helps the body, helps the immunity. So I went and got me some vitamins. You know, we got this misconception that vitamins are for old people. Nah, bro. Get you some vitamins, bro. And they taste good. Get you some. Just carry them with you. You feel me? Just, you know, maybe 2 or 3 a day. Just, you know, bomb. Yeah, so it's a lot of natural ways, bro, that we can be healing ourselves. This ain't gonna affect your ability to make children, bro. You know what I'm saying? This is not gonna affect your sperm at all. So, you know, do as you will. And he also compared himself to Jesus, which is something I've heard a lot of people in the nation do. You know, I don't really get into that too much because honestly, I don't really understand the concept of Jesus. You know, once I found out that he wasn't white and that his name ain't even Jesus, you know, and I don't really know what his name is. I've heard like 6, 7 different names. I don't even know what his real name is. But then once I found out he wasn't really hung on a cross, he was hung on a tree. Like, I don't know why church left that part out. He was hung on a tree. You know how important that information is? You feel me? Like, that's extremely important. Why is that not being addressed? That's in the Bible. I don't understand why that information has been kept out. And then Jesus, you know, never told nobody to be no Christian. He never even said the word Christian. He hung with nothing but killers. You know what I'm saying? Remember the story of the soldier that tried to grab Jesus and his partner pulled out his sword and cut that man's ear off? Jesus hung with killers. Then the fact that he called anybody that wasn't an Israelite a dog. You know what I'm saying? When the woman grabbed his leg and said, why would I give to the children of Israel to a dog? That's in the Bible. You know, so it's really difficult for me to understand the concept of Jesus because Jesus has been so mixed up and I don't really understand. Now, I can't deny that there's a lot of similarities between Jesus and Farrakhan. I cannot deny that Farrakhan healed the blind. You know, Farrakhan healed the sick. You feel me? Farrakhan has done a lot of miracles for a lot of us. Hey, like I say, I don't know, bro. I don't know. You know, when I pray to the Most High God. I don't pray to Jesus. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, then he goes on to talk about the war in Ukraine. You know, this is like getting to the end now. He starts talking about the war in Ukraine and how the war is going to spread and America's going to be drawn in. And he said if that happens, or when that happens, more than likely, they're going to come after Farrakhan. Because they can't have Farrakhan out here preaching the truth to all these black people when they need us to go and fight in the war. They need our bodies to get the vaccine. They need us for this and that. And Farrakhan preaching the truth and going against the grain. So, you know what they got to do to people like that. You know what I'm saying? So similar to how Jesus was crucified and he hadn't done a damn thing, I guess Farrakhan is comparing that like, you know, I'm finna have to be crucified, bro. You know, and if that's the case, it is what it is. You feel me? And he said that he's prepared for that. He's ready for that. And it makes it easier for the rest of us to kind of accept that too. Because we know his work is, you know, he's already done what he's supposed to do. The information is here. The tools is here. Everything we need is here. Only thing we're doing at this point is fighting ourselves. We don't need nobody else's help. Racism is no longer a problem. Well, it's a problem, but it's not an unsolvable problem. You feel me? We have the tools we need to save ourselves. You know, we just are battling ourselves right now. And it's making it difficult for us to get it done. But Farrakhan definitely did his job. I was kind of surprised, but he actually brought up that black woman. I don't know her name. I probably should have looked it up. But that black woman that's now finna be a Supreme Court judge or whatever. And he talked about how they playing us. You know, and I've said that several times. You know, these people put a black face in a high place, and that's tokenism. You know what I'm saying? They play on our emotions and get us to think that we're not making progress, bro. A black woman on the Supreme Court is not progress. A black Supreme Court that we create for ourselves, progress. You feel me? A black woman working for the United States government backed by Joe Biden, that's not progress. That's tokenism. We've been through this 1,000 times. Why do we keep doing the same thing over and over and over? That is insanity, which is exactly what we are. Insane. Doing the same shit over and over. and expecting a different result. But shout out to her and all the money she finna make. You know, then he really started putting it out there. You know, he started talking about working for America is useless because America don't even have a future. You know, you think that you can do all that shit y'all did to the Mexicans and the natives and the blacks that y'all brought from Africa on top of the ones that was already here? You think y'all can do all that shit to them people, to us, and continue to do that? And you think that you just gonna get away with that? America is not above the laws of nature. You know, you cannot do all those things and expect nothing to come back on you. I feel like the Most High is gonna allow them to destroy themselves. You know, he talks about Russia in the end, talking about Russia and how they were wrong for the way that they did Ukraine, running up in there like you big and bad Putin. You can't be fucked with. You know what I'm saying? Can't nobody touch you. Can't nobody bring you down. You big bad Putin, right? Yeah, he said you was wrong for the way that you did them people. You know what I'm saying? But they gonna go down and you gonna go down right along with them because all white power must die so that the kingdom of God can rise. It was so powerful, bro. Every time Farrakhan talk, it'd be powerful, you feel me? But we don't really have a lot of black leaders that aren't afraid to talk to us in a real kind of way. Farrakhan is one of the very few that we have that's going to talk to black people specifically and going to tell us the truth. But Farrakhan going to do that, bro. He going to do that with the backlash. And Farrakhan has the following. You know, it's other black people that like Professor Griff, you feel me? Like KRS-One, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, even Dr. Umar Johnson going to tell you some real shit. Like, we have people that's going to talk to you on some real shit. Dr. Claude Anderson. We got niggas that's going to tell you some real shit, but they don't have the following. Farrakhan got the following of the Nation of Islam. Nigga, the Nation of Islam is everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Everywhere, bro. In a hood near you. You know what I'm talking about? The Nation of Islam is everywhere. And so it's just so much more impactful when Farrakhan tells us the truth, you know, as opposed to anybody else. So I really would love the whole message, bro. You know, I'm going to put the link in my description. You can go check it out for yourself, you know, and take from that what you will. You feel me? I took from it what I wanted to take from it and whatever, you know, but hey, holla at me.